Welcome to DarkHours FM. If you'd like to help keep these stories alive and feeling generous, you can give a tip at Buy Me a Coffee or unlock more haunting at Patreon. All the links in the bio. Tonight's story, Season 2, Episode 3, The Villisca Axe Murders. Let's begin. On June 10th, 1912, the small town of Villisca, Iowa, woke to a nightmare. Inside a modest white house on East 2nd Street, 8 people lay dead. 6 were children. Each had been murdered in their sleep with an axe. Over a century later, no one knows who did it or why. The victims were the Moore family and 2 visiting friends. Josiah and Sarah Moore lived with their 4 children, Herman, Catherine, Boyd, and Paul. That evening, their 2 young friends, Lena and Ina Stillinger, joined them for a sleepover after a church event. By morning, every one of them would be dead. The killings occurred sometime between midnight and 5 a.m. The weapon, Josiah's own axe. Every victim was struck multiple times in the head. Josiah suffered the worst of it, his skull crushed beyond recognition. Yet the horror didn't stop with the murders. What the killer did afterward would scar the town forever. Sheets had been pulled over each victim's face, as if the murderer couldn't stand to look at what they had done. Every mirror in the house was covered. Windows were draped with cloth. A lamp had been dismantled to dim its flame, casting only a faint glow through the rooms. And in the kitchen, a slab of bacon was left on the floor, wrapped in a towel. Neighbors noticed something was wrong when the Moore family didn't appear for morning chores. By 8 a.m., a search began. What they found inside the house was beyond comprehension. Children still in their beds, tucked under sheets. The Stillinger sisters in the guest room, one showing signs she may have woken up before the axe fell. The silence of the night had been shattered by brutality no one heard. Investigators were baffled. There was no sign of forced entry. Some believed the killer had hidden in the attic, waiting for the family to fall asleep. A bowl of bloody water suggested he had washed his hands before leaving. The doors were locked behind him. Whoever he was, he moved like a ghost. Suspicion quickly turned to suspects. Reverend George Kelly, a traveling preacher who had attended the same church service, drew attention for his bizarre behavior. He was known for inappropriate advances toward young girls. The morning after the murders, he left town on a train, allegedly telling passengers that 8 souls had been murdered in Villisca before the bodies were even discovered. He was tried for the murders years later, but was acquitted. Another suspect was Frank Jones, a wealthy state senator and business rival of Josiah Moore. Moore had once worked for Jones, selling farm equipment, but left to start his own company, taking with him a major account that cost Jones both money and pride. Rumor suggested Jones had reason for revenge, but no evidence ever tied him to the crime. Some investigators wondered if Villisca had been the victim of something far darker, a traveling serial killer. Similar axe murders had been reported in Colorado, Kansas, and Illinois, involving entire families slain in their homes while they slept. Theories spread that the Villisca murders were part of a broader pattern, but perhaps the most unsettling aspect of the case is how no one heard a thing. 8 people killed, one after another, in a quiet wooden house, and not a single neighbor reported screams. Only the sound of footsteps, of wood striking bone, and then silence. The Moore house became infamous, not just for the murders, but for the stories that followed. Visitors reported strange occurrences, doors opening on their own, children's laughter echoing through empty rooms, cold drafts sweeping through locked spaces. Paranormal investigators claim it remains one of the most haunted homes in America. Today, The house stands preserved as a tourist attraction and paranormal hotspot. Brave souls can spend the night inside, though many leave before dawn, shaken by what they've seen or heard. Some claim to feel an oppressive presence. Others report the faint cries of children. One investigator even fled after being attacked by an unseen force in the attic, where the killer may have waited. But beyond the ghost stories lies a chilling reality. 8 lives were taken in Villisca, and the killer was never caught. No motive, no confession, just a town left in terror, and a house where the silence still feels heavy with death. The Villisca Axe Murders remain unsolved. More than 100 years later, the mystery endures. And in the stillness of that small white house, it is as if the night itself remembers the horror. Thanks for joining us in the dark. Some stories fade with the light. Others stay with you. We'll see you next time, if you make it.